following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Yes, that's right, folks. This is another edition of No Credentials Required. Welcome to it. We know some people are having a No Credentials Required watch party, so wherever you're watching from, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Gozilla Media. My name's Ryan McCarthy. And to my right is a man who definitely didn't dump his girlfriend for Ariana Grande. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing today?
It was her voice. I just couldn't, I couldn't resist. But never mind, it didn't happen. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. We got some things to talk over, but before we do that, just want to remind people about our social media channels, which are right down here below. Twitter, or X as it's called now, Instagram and TikTok. Instagram and the scarcely used TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. And if you're watching live or you're watching the replay, just a reminder to smash that like button, smash it responsibly. And we've already got a comment from from Nick, from your brother-in-law, Nick. Tracy, Shannon, and I are watching from the Cheesecake Factory. Hey, Nick, see if the bar can get it on the TVs. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, they got to use the YouTube app, or if they have a Roku, they can in that way.
Exactly. On the podcast side, subscribe. You can subscribe on a myriad of podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Rate and review 5 stars is the preferred number of stars that you could give us. You also review the podcast, and if your review is really kind, or if it's horrifically mean, we'll still read it on the air. And because this is a live show, and as we've already demonstrated, Dustin, I know you've been waiting all week to hear this beautiful, beautiful sound. I know you're waiting for it.
Lay that melody on me.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because it's a live show. We want you to engage with us. We want your comments. Write them in as Dustin's brother-in-law just did. And speaking of, before we get down to business, we both had an interesting weekend. And
you did.
in that, we did a tour of the area. We'll give a shout out to some of the establishments we stopped by. We stopped at Bill McCoy Brewing Company in Delmar. We stopped at Mixed Breed Brewing in Guilderland. We also stopped at Other One Brewing in Half Moon. And we also stopped for lunch at Faux Yum in Colony, which is actually right around the corner from where Dustin lives.
Yeah, so I could pretty much walk there.
Yeah, you could. You walk there, get hungry, have some lunch, and then walk it off. To digest.
Well, based on what happened to us, I definitely should have done that, because let me tell you, that pho was delicious. It was yummy, to quote their name. I'm sorry. I know what I did there. But yes, you did. I was so you mix that with beer, you're gonna feel pretty full. And little did I know, because I was saying to you, I was like, oh man, I might try to take a walk, but I feel like I gotta take a nap first. And you're sneaky. You got me. You said, oh yeah, I think I gotta I might just drop you off and then take a nap myself. I'm pretty tired too. we pull up to my house, and suffice to say, that's not what happened. Both of us were surprised a little bit.
Yeah.
You were part of the surprise, but
Yeah, I was part of the ruse
yeah,
to make sure that the work was being done around your house. But then I guess walk up and it's happy birthday, Dustin, because your
yeah,
birthday was in June. We really didn't do anything, and
yes,
they
yeah.
decided to get you. But then your sister says, early birthday to Ryan. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Me
yeah,
too?
no. No, they fooled us, and special shout out to them. They did a
Yeah.
lot of landscaping work around my house, and thank you to everybody
Mm-hmm.
that came. We got to enjoy some cigars on my patio. That was one of the highlights of the evening, and we brought a little bit of the podcast segment of the summer,
That's
one of the
right.
hit segments of the summer, into the night of hanging out. Questions for humans. Don't worry, people. We will have cards read on the show. I know that
That's
you're
right.
all anticipating it along with our movie reviews. You may as well call Ryan and I Sports, Siskel, and Ebert. I don't know which one of us is which, though.
Well, I might as well be Ebert, because I guess Ebert was a little chubby. But
Hey, the way I'm eating, I could definitely be Ebert too. So hey, but
yeah, so special shout out to our sneaky sisters, Tracy and Shannon, for put together a pretty cool thing. And actually one of my gift from your sister and your brother-in-law is actually right behind me,
oh yeah, right on
right
the.
between the Scott Stevens bobblehead and my New York Yankees apple is the Kumar Rocker bobblehead
Mhm,
that I
mhm.
got. So yeah, fun time on Saturday. Tried to rest it off on Sunday. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. My weekends now seem to be needing more weekend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are a busy man, sir. You are a working man. I have taken a decidedly more leisurely approach to my weekends. I think I've got to get working a little bit more on some things, specifically wanting to get back into music projects and other things of
Hey,
that nature. And also, don't look now, folks, but it's August, and I will be doing Extra Life this year. More info
hey,
to come soon.
hey! All right. Well, now that we've got all that out of the way, it's time for we're continuing our summer movie series with no ticket required. We gotta play the bumper music.
Oh, of course.
Gotta play the element. So this week we are reviewing Ford versus Ferrari, based on the true story of the Ford Motor Company and in their efforts to dethrone Ferrari from the Le Mans, uh, from basically the racing throne. It seems like I think pretty much every movie we've watched this summer has been based on on a true story,
Yeah.
which is pretty incredible.
Mhm.
So, Dustin, let me get your thoughts on this movie. What were your impressions? What were your what stood out to you? Just give me some thoughts on what you thought of the movie.
All right. Well, first, I gotta say this is Matt Damon's second appearance
Matt Damon.
on
I haven't done it yet. I had to do
on
it.
our Jimmy Kimmel's nemesis, Matt Damon. It's his second appearance on No Credentials Required, and I don't want to get into spoilers for later for the end of the review, but this movie got me from the jump.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I
really
agree.
liked I knew from the opening scene is Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby racing at Le Mans, and they tell him, you can see that he's on empty, and you're like, oh man, he's got a pit. So he goes into the pit stop, and he says, fill her up. and they proceed to light him on fire because they're trying to rush, and they squirt a little stream of gasoline out onto the car, and he catches fire because the car is real hot because it's been driving. Yep. And they pat him out, and his right hand man / chief mechanic, I think, said, "Are you all right? We've got to stop." And he turns to him and he says, "Am I on fire? Am I on fire?" And he says, "No, continue." Well, then, I got to get back out there. And he gets in the car. And right from that moment, Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, had me. Now, I'm a little biased because I've said, now I wouldn't be able to drive it, but my dream car is a 1967 Shelby Cobra GT. Ooh. But I can't drive standard, so I'm out of the running. But for those of you who don't know that car and what it is, if you've seen the movie Gone in 60 Seconds, the infamous Eleanor that Nicolas Cage is trying to steal, the last car that he needs, that is a 1967 Shelby GT Cobra. And from that introduction, the movie had me, and it had me. There's a lot of things that got me. Not only this movie had a bit of an ensemble cast, and it had our new best friend, John Bernthal, making a return.
Because of course John Bernthal's got to be in it.
Yes, Lee Iacocca. John Bernthal plays Lee Iacocca. It's a can of corn. He wasn't talking about the French fries in this movie, but he was trying to push forward into the racing side of things. Now, I just really enjoyed everybody in this movie. And unlike, there it is, there's Eleanor. I love that car. Now,
masterpiece.
Unlike King Richard, I found a lot of characters to root for in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll let you get into your thoughts shortly, but you rooted for Ken Miles, played wonderfully by Christian Bale. I don't know as much about anything as Ken Miles seemingly knew about driving and cars. Yep. If memory serves, he was a tank. He drove tanks in the war, and he was from Birmingham, I believe.
Yes, he was a tank commander in World War II, and Carroll Shelby was a pilot in World War II.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, because there's the scene where Carroll Shelby decides to try the landing, to fly in when he makes his speech for Ford there, when the unholy alliance is complete. But not only do you root for Ken Miles, Molly Miles was no slouch. She was also a very strong character. She put up with a lot, but she was kind of reminiscent of Mrs. Jordan in Air. You knew Molly Miles was not to be trifled with. She wasn't going to put up with a lot of things. I rooted for her. I rooted, of course, for Carroll Shelby. I loved Carroll Shelby's right-hand man there. He was great. Lee Iacocca, he walked the line, but I still rooted for him. I rooted for him. And of course, Ferrari. Now, they don't focus much on Ferrari in this movie. This movie is much more about the Ford story. And we'll get into a few things that I think they kind of Disneyfied, to quote your words. They swapped a couple things around, and we'll get into what those are. But Ferrari reading, Ford shows up with this cadre of lawyers. Lee Iacocca's there. Ferrari,
all those executives,
yeah. He reads the contract, and he says, because I want to retain control of the racing side of my company. And when things start to go awry, Ferrari has some choice words for
that did occur.
Yes,
that entire sequence did occur. If you watch James May's short film, season 1, episode 6 of the Grand Tour, it's like probably about a 15-minute film.
Yeah, I'd say so.
The battle between Ford and Ferrari, and yes, that Enzo Ferrari did insult. Did insult Henry Ford II And he said, "I'm hungry. Let's go eat." And they all walked out the room.
Yeah, which I knew that was accurate. I knew that the insults had been thrown because I had seen that segment when Grand Tour first came out. I'm not a car guy, but I was a massive fan of the British version of Top Gear, and when May and Clarkson and
Richard
Hammond all moved to Amazon for Grand Tour, I tuned in for sure. Now I've fallen behind a little bit, but side recommendation: if you're at all interested in the subject matter of this movie, watch that segment, but also watch the rest of the show. It makes you care about cars in a way that you never thought you would. And I have to admit, after watching this movie, I had a hankering to take the old Subaru hatchback out and drive it fast, but I don't think I would have made it very far. But I have in my notes, Ferrari was not to be trifled with. That man was a very smart man. And so I rooted for him, even though in this movie he was the opposition. There were lots of characters to root for. This movie had me from the jump. How about you, sir?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this movie was 2 hours and 23 minutes long. Granted, 5 minutes of those, 5 minutes of just that was the movie was just credits alone. The end credits were long, and a long list of very dedicated people who dedicated their lives for X amount of months to make this movie. So tons of credit to them. But yeah, unlike King Richard, which was kind of, to me, felt very slow, very plodding, just kind of crawled at times. This movie was just boom, 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 all the way through. And you can see the struggle between Shelby and Ford Motor Company and the executives, one in particular, Josh Lucas. Josh Lucas, shout out to him, coming out of the voiceovers from the Lowe's commercials and from Glory Road. Him playing kind of the villain there.
Without question.
The head of racing.
Leo, what was his name? Leo Beebe.
Leo Beebe, yes.
Yeah.
I was about to do some real-time research on this program because that's what we do here. Now that I have a keyboard, I don't have to go on my laptop and shake my camera every time. I just have a keyboard right here, keyboard mouse combination. Shout out to Amazon for that. But the overall theme of the movie, to me, was that these two men were part of the greatest generation.
Mm-hmm.
These guys went and beat the Nazis. Frankly, they also should have beaten the Soviet Union too, but that's an alternate timeline. But these guys went to war. These guys saw the horrors of war up close and personal. And when they got back from the war, they weren't afraid to keep going. They weren't afraid to try new things. Shelby was obsessed with speed. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, positively obsessed with speed. And Miles, even though he didn't build his own car, he didn't have his own division, didn't have his own car division, automobile division. He was undefeated when he was on the racetrack. He didn't lose. He didn't lose, period. Which is one of the great ironies, and spoiler alert for this one, the great ironies of the film and in the race itself is that he was declared, I think it was third place.
Yes.
Because although he said it was Henry Ford, it was Beebe who wanted all three cars to finish together. And even though all three cars finished together, there was some fakakta rule that Le Mans just made up because they'd never seen that before. They had never seen three cars from the same team finish together. So they had to award a winner, and it happened to be McLaren. And Miles was declared the second place winner, was declared second place because he finished 8 meters behind when he had that slow start. And what's funny is that the lead mechanic used the Clarkson method to close the door.
Oh yeah, yep, with the hammer.
Got to use the hammer.
No, and I mean and we're getting into it now, so we may as well. And correct me if I'm wrong with some real-time research, but I did review Mays segment from that episode because I wanted to make sure I had some facts right. But
I did the same thing after the movie.
Yeah, in the movie, that whole the personal vendetta that Leo Beebe has against Ken Miles, the whole thing where he doesn't want him to drive and he doesn't.
He's a loose cannon.
Yeah. Now he may have been a loose cannon. I don't know enough about Ken Miles, but the petty dislike that Beebe had. And side note, shout out to that actor. Who'd you say? Josh Lucas, was it?
Josh Lucas, yeah.
Yeah. He did a great job because he played the smarmy yes man to a T. He was to Henry Ford II. It reminded me of Wormwood from Lord of the Rings. In the ear of the King of Rohan there. And I was just like, man, I can't stand this guy. The whole movie. So that's the nod of a great acting job, because I had an intense dislike in this movie for someone I'd never met before, obviously.
Right.
So he did his job well. But that whole narrative, that was actually on the Ferrari side of things. There was an executive at Ferrari who disliked, let's see, what is his name? John Surtees.
Yep.
And John Surtees, who was actually, he was an amazing driver that Ferrari pulled out and said, race for me. We've got to beat those Fords. We've got to beat them. And so that whole narrative, they kind of swapped it as far as I remember in the movie to make it, in my opinion, a better movie. It works because on some degree, it's still accurate. It's still events that actually happened. But it was actually on the Ferrari side where the executive had a problem with Surtees. So I thought that was very nicely done to kind of flip the switch there. That my only minor critique of this movie is, and I get it, this is about the Ford story. The Ford story is first and foremost, and this checks all the boxes. They set up how unbeatable Ferrari was, so immediately you're in the tank for Ford, especially when they go get Carroll Shelby. It was over for me. And then Ken Miles, you like his fire, you like his passion. Both Miles and Shelby and Ferrari, for that matter, all of those men were maniacally driven and chasing perfection, which has been a common theme in all of the movies that we watch. There are always a few characters that are chasing perfection. I mean, look at even from Chariots of Fire. There was the one man who could not beat Eric Liddell, and he chased him. Abraham hired the coach.
Held Abraham, yeah.
Yep, so that he could achieve better results. It was all he thought about, and also in Miracle, we saw the way that Kurt Russell played the coach, and we know how driven he was, and we know how accurate that was. We don't know some of the things, as you eloquently put out in our last review when we did Miracle, in our previous review rather, they were exaggerated a little bit for effect. But we know that he was driven. We know that he pushed that club because he wanted to win. And I mean, come on, the Williams sisters' drive to win, I mean, they were relentless. So every movie we've watched, it's hard not to root for these characters that are so maniacally driven to achieve the perfect results that they want, that they almost sacrifice everything else. And I'll sit here as somebody who's trying to figure out some things mentally and working through some stuff. It's not always healthy, but we can't help but idolize that type of behavior. We empathize with it. We see it and we're like, man, and it also ignites our passion. You know, I remember I watched this movie with my sister, and I turned and I said, man, I want to find that passion for something again. You know, that just that fiery drive. And but my only critique, to get back to what I said, I wish they had gone a little bit more into the Ferrari types of things, because Ferrari did develop a car, I believe it was called the P3, in response
P3. Yep.
to what Ford had done with the GT.
Our show mascot has stopped by.
Oh, there he is. There he is. It's been a little while since we've seen him. Hello,
speaking of fast animals.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Speaking of speed.
He is lethally fast. But yeah, I just wish we had seen a little bit about Ferrari, because they did a good job of saying that Ferrari had dominated everything, but I just wish you had seen a little bit more of their side of things, just to build up the rivalry. But I get it. This movie was already 2.5 hours. Some stuff had to make the cutting room floor. There's no way. And Matt Damon did say, Carroll Shelby, he did say, you know, we might not have. That was one of my favorite scenes of the movie, when Ford says, give me one reason why I shouldn't fire all of you right now. And Carroll Shelby stands up to him and he says, hey, we may have lost and the cars didn't hold together and a bunch of things went wrong, but we clocked 2:18 on our final lap, and Ferrari has never achieved any speed like that. And he just said, you're welcome. And I have in my notes, I said, I love Carroll Shelby's brass balls standing up to Ford when he thought he was going to get fired. Honorable mention too. So many great performances in this movie, but the soundtrack also does a great job of setting the mood, and just this whole movie was great. And
the score was definitely excellent.
I recommend if you haven't watched it yet, do yourself a favor and watch it, and then watch James May's segment. But it just got me thinking, man, Le Mans might be something I'd like to see someday, because you hear about these crazy races, Le Mans, and what's the one, the Gumball? What is that big one?
Gumball Rally?
Gumball Rally.
There's Le Mans, there's a 24 Hours of Daytona, and there's the Sebring.
Yep, I knew the Sebring. They mentioned in the movie, because Miles, he won at 24 at Daytona,
and won 24 at Daytona, and he won at Sebring.
Yeah,
and I just want to
look at won.
Yeah,
he should have won at Le Mans, but I'm trying to remember. But you hear about some of these crazy races, and you're like, man, I would like to see that maybe someday. But man, I just wholeheartedly recommend this movie. And I don't know. Do you have some other thoughts that you want to say before we get to the rankings?
I did some real-time research.
All right, RTR.
And apparently they Disney-fied Leo Beebe.
Okay, so yeah. So that's Leo Beebe was the stand-in for the exec at Ferrari. You know, you could surmise. I'm making some leaps here, but
no, I meant just the fact that he was the villain.
Yeah. Okay.
He wasn't a villain. Apparently, in real life, he was actually a really kind and humble person. Very, very, very self-assured, very confident. Yes, but completely not a total tool.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I couldn't stand Leo Beebe in this movie, and also Ford. For like half a second, I'm like, you know, because I couldn't stand him either. And then he would do something like he decided, you know, not going to fire Shelby. I'll give him a shot. And in the scene when he's in the Shelby, I don't know if this really happened. I have no idea. But when Shelby takes him out in the car because he wants to prove that Miles should be the driver, and he takes Ford in the car and is whipping him around.
Yeah.
And Ford has that moment where he cries out of sheer emotion, and he says that I wish my father was here to see this and feel this, and I had no idea. I said, maybe this guy's not such a putz. And then he leaves on his chopper to go on his helicopter to go have dinner. Yeah, and then he comes in. And I'm just like, you're as bad. You're as bad.
He was bored. He needed his beauty sleep.
Yeah.
No, well, I'm trying to figure out the things that did happen and didn't happen. I'm trying
Yeah.
to establish
trademark, the
reality
real time.
from real. Yeah, right. Trying to establish trying to separate reality from disbelief. I know we got to suspend disbelief for certain parts.
Of course.
Yeah, I want to find out if Carroll Shelby did steal those time watches that Ferrari had. And I also want to see if he tricked them with throwing the lug nut.
Yeah,
on the
dropping
ground
the
next
lug
to them.
nut. Yeah.
I laughed. I laughed so hard.
Oh yeah.
When he did those things, it's like
and I realized
that's my they were making indistinguishable Italian noises when they found out that the watches were missing. That Peter Griffin.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I figured out something too. I do want one of those blue Shelby America jackets. Those things looked great.
Those were sweet. Those are sweet jackets. But I mean, going back to my original point about Shelby and Miles, and again, another spoiler alert: Ken Miles unfortunately passed away 2 months after the race, testing the new GT. And what's interesting about the GT is they won Le Mans 5 years in a row. Going away 66 no 4 years in a row, 4 or 5.
Yeah, wait.
65, 66, 67, 68, and 69. So it's 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
And I did look it up. I did want to see if anyone has won Sebring, Daytona, and Le Mans in the same year. Yes, 9 racers have done it.
Okay.
Hans Hermann has done it. Well, not in the same year, but in lifetime.
Okay.
Hans Hermann was the first to complete it. He won Daytona in 68 and Sebring. There's 12 hours at Sebring.
Oh, okay.
And he won 24 hours at Le Mans in 70. Then Jackie Oliver did it, followed by Hurley Haywood, AJ Foyt. If that name sounds familiar to you, he was one of the greatest IndyCar drivers ever. Al Holbert, Andy Wallace, Mauro Baldi, Marco Werner, and most recently by Timo Bernard. He won Daytona in 2003, Sebring in 2008, and he won Le Mans in 2010 and 2017.
All right.
So yeah, and what's interesting is that while I was watching the movie, I was doing some research because I remembered that Porsche has experiences in Atlanta and Birmingham, and I can't remember which other state or which other city where you pay out the nose, but you get to drive a Porsche for like 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh,
and
man.
you can have dinner or lunch there. So, if I win Mega Millions, that's gonna be one of my first stops is the Porsche experience in Atlanta.
Oh man, yeah, that would be fun. We should start a new segment on the show every once in a while when we hear about an NFL player that signs a big contract. We should say, what would we do with that money? All
right, next week, the list, a new installment of the list. 5 things you would do if you ever won Mega Millions or
Oh man, all right, yeah. Yeah. So what would I do if I had FU money? I got to start thinking about that.
Well, speaking of FU, let me just let's play this PSA from Wise El Jefe.
Yeah.
The following is a public service announcement from Wise El Jefe.
Boston.
This has been a public service announcement from Wise El Jefe.
Always love to see that. Anytime. Now, I love how we could just randomly insert it into anything, any context. It always works.
Shout out to Wise. But I want to go back to my first point when I was talking about Shelby and Miles and the courage to innovate. They wanted to test the limits of automobiles. They wanted to test the limits of speed to see how fast they could go, to see how agile they could make a car, to see what they could do to win and you mentioned the drive to win, the drive to be passionate about something. And I think it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's missing from from this particular era of our country, of our nation, or of our society. But but there are still people out there who are willing to try and keep testing those limits, testing the limits of speed and innovation and the drive, the will to win, to make things better, to be the best. And I think that's one of the themes of this movie was just drive, innovation, and also just inspirational because what these two men were doing was truly inspirational. I mean, you could say, it's auto racing. It's just a race. It's just this and that.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that at the end of the film, after the race is over, and Shelby apologizes to Miles about the results of the race, Miles says to him, "You asked me to drive. You didn't ask me to win."
Yeah. Yeah. You promised me the drive. You didn't promise me the win.
Yeah.
And, it was, and the first thing what do both of them do? And I think you brought up an amazing point. What do both of them do? Immediately
go back to work.
Yes.
Go back to work.
Immediately Miles starts talking about, well, the car's not perfect. I felt like this, we could make this adjustment. We could make it a little lighter. I was thinking about this, and Shelby's response is, what are we doing here then? And they both start walking off, and they said, "We'll get them next year." I mean,
Miles says, "I can go faster. I can go faster. I can go faster. I can push it." And the cool thing is that at Daytona, they were saying, keep it under 6,000 RPM. Keep it under 6,000 RPM. And then Shelby, who's afraid of losing the race because he knows if he loses the race, he doesn't get Miles to go to Le Mans.
Yeah, and he also cedes control of his Shelby America to Ford. That was the other big thing.
Yeah. So he writes that sign, 7,000 plus RPM, give it hell.
Yeah.
And Miles winds up winning the race.
Yep, he does. And I do have to say, Christian Bale, another great performance. But every time he was talking as Ken Miles, I couldn't help, especially when he was in the beginning, when he's yelling at the official that tries to tell him the trunk is not regulation, because it won't close or whatever.
Yeah.
When he's yelling, all I could think of, and Ryan, stop me if you've never seen this, but have you ever seen, and I'm sorry, Mr. Bale, I'm sure you'd prefer that this video is dead and buried, but have you ever seen him lose his mind on the set? There was footage of him
Rise of the
ranting,
Machines.
and he's like,
yes.
Good for you, la-di-da-di-da, and he's swearing, and every time he's yelling as Ken Miles, I couldn't help but think of that clip, and I'm like, wasn't too far of a walk, was it, Christian? Wasn't? It made me laugh very hard to myself. But and I do have to say, this movie, the mark of a good movie, my sister, not a big sports fan, although she's enjoyed watching some of the movies. She's been watching along with us and with me through this list. And she turned to me at one point, and I think it was at the race where Ken Miles was racing, and it was before Shelby came out and held up that sign and said, "Give it hell," because they had established that the Ford cars, there was problems once you got them over 7,000 RPMs. Yep. There was the brake lock and all that kind of stuff. So he pushes it, and my sister was visibly nervous, and she said to me, "I'm very nervous." And I said, that's the sign of a good sports movie, because even when you know the outcome at times, you're still nervous. Hell, that's the sign of a good movie. If a movie can make you nervous, it usually means you're invested and you're into it, that it's grabbed you.
All right, so let's go to our rankings here, Dustin. Let me start with you. Where do you rank the movies now? What's your ranking?
We got a new champion.
Oh!
Ford versus Ferrari has vaulted to the top of my list. Much like the Fords at Le Mans, they accelerated for the win.
Oh,
Air.
the pun.
Yeah, a terrible one. I'll see myself out after the show. Now, number 2, Air. Air is still strong. Still strong. Thank you, Fritz. I heard your we have a fictional man on the set, Fritz.
We'll
I
call
don't
him
know. I
Fritz.
came up with that. All right. So we got Annabelle, we got Fritz, we got a whole crew.
Mascot tag along.
Yeah. But all right, and so Air is my number 2. Number 3 for me. Oh, I have to remember what my 3 was. I believe I put Miracle at 3. And then King Richard would be 4 for me, and then Chariots of Fire, and last, still Moneyball. Moneyball is my bottom. It had its moments, but there's just something about that movie. It didn't vibe with me. How about you, sir?
Oh, I would agree that the new champion, running 7,000 RPMs to the top of my list.
No break lock on this one.
No break clock. Is Ford versus Ferrari, followed by Air, followed by Miracle, then Chariots of Fire, then Moneyball, and then finally at the end of my list is King Richard.
I think you would put that. I gotta review my math and see how many movies we have left here on No Ticket Required. But I think you would put King Richard at 99 if you could. I think.
Oh yeah, well, like I said at the beginning, I said, you know, this movie was 2 hours and 23 minutes, but didn't want to make me slap Will Smith and then hang myself.
Yeah.
Because of how slow it was. Well, anyway, folks, it's it for this installment of No Ticket Required. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll do some random sports news. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required here to tell you about Mahler Brothers Golf. We all want to look good in the golf course, but it often comes at the expense of feeling good. Mahler Brothers Golf has polos that look good and feel good. With their lightweight and stretchy material that hugs your body, you will feel cool while looking just as cool. Their polos are guaranteed to make you look better, but it's up to you to golf better. On a hot summer's day on the golf course, there's no polo that you would rather wear than Mahler Brothers Golf signature polos. Mahler Brothers Golf has a large catalog of polos with designs for those who want a loud design and others for those who want a subtle and sleek looking design. They also have fun t-shirts, hats, tumblers, and so much more to make your golfing experience better. Head to MahlerBrothers.com. It's MAHLERBROS. Use promo code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Mahler Brothers Golf is a proud sponsor of Belly Up Sports and is also a proud sponsor of this particular program. But if you want some really great golf shirts, I highly recommend it. Gets the No Credentials Required seal of approval. Where is little puppers here?
We got to come up with a name for the seal.
Puppers.
There we go.
Yeah, Puppers a seal. Puppers a seal gives the No Credentials Required seal of approval. We got Fritz on the drums. We got Annabelle for Christmas. We got Puppers. We got Tag Along.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And I have decided Fritz is like Cher. He has no last name.
It's true. True. Fritz has no last name. But anyway, folks, back to what I was talking about. Mahler Brothers Golf gets some great material. It's MAHLERBROS.com. 15% off with promo code BELLYUP at checkout. Get yourself some really sleek designs. If you want something slim fit, they have that. If you want something relaxed fit, they got that. If you want something that's more subtle, they got that. If you want something more loud, they got that. If you want a t-shirt, they got that. If you want a tumbler, they got that. Get some great golf material for your golfing game. Even if you're terrible at golf, at least you'll look good. So MahlerBrothersGolf.com, MahlerBrothers.com. Use promo code BELLYUP at checkout. All right, we're gonna get to some random sports news. And the first thing we're gonna lead off with is Tim Anderson. He got knocked the hell out. We gotta watch this clip from courtesy of CBS. NBC Chicago. This is from the game last Saturday between the White Sox and the Guardians. I don't know what to call them these days, but we'll watch this brief clip and we'll talk about it.
Oscar's throw is not in time.
He just missed him at second base. This is another rocket of a throw, and now...
Oh, boy.
Now,
oh, my goodness. Here come the benches. Off we go. It started with Anderson and Ramirez. Swings being taken.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And everybody's spilling out here in Cleveland.
Well, now they come running out of the bullpen, which is a bit late, but they're adding some support to the effort. And that was one of the few that you actually saw coming to blows. You don't see that too often.
Oh, but see, Anderson in this one, you're going to square up like that. You better. I mean, Ramirez handled that like a boxer. He ducked and he slipped. He slipped the punches and hooked him.
Now, oh my goodness. More time. Here come the benches. Off we go. It started with Anderson and Ramirez. Swings being...
Have you seen the slow-mo of this? I saw the slow-mo.
I have.
Oh, man. The slow-mo even emphasizes it more. The slow-mo on X this morning, which side note, whether you love Elon or hate him, I don't know why he decided to change the name to X, but have you seen the flashing X logo? I
have.
So somebody tweeted, look at that thing flashing. Imagine your apartment being right across from that. And somebody tweeted under it, imagine no more. This is my life now. And they took a picture, and out their window is a giant flashing X. That poor person, a la Kramer and Kenny Rogers Roasters. That's a Seinfeld reference. If you didn't get it, that poor person is not going to be able to sleep anymore.
What's going on in here, Kramer?
Yeah. It's the red sun.
It's Kenny Rogers Roasters, Jerry.
Yeah. It's the wood that makes it good.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite episodes. Not fast food, good food quickly.
Yeah, I saw that clip and I'm like, wow, I went to a White Sox game and a Blackhawks game broke out.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I was surprised the umpires let them just go to town.
Yeah, usually it doesn't get that far. And usually, like the announcers say, usually it doesn't happen because both bullpens clear and a bunch of people jump in front of each other, and usually cooler heads prevail. But I mean, it was obvious where this thing was going, and nobody tried to step in for a couple of seconds there.
Now, they did announce suspensions today. Tim Anderson got 6 games for starting the fight, while Ramirez got 3 games for finishing the fight.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure will be appealed, but Tim Anderson, if you're gonna start something, won't be nothing. And certainly he wasn't anything there.
And the thing is, Kenyon, have you seen the comments from, I think, Keenan Middleton is how it's pronounced?
Kenyon Middleton, yeah. I talked about it this morning on Coffee with McCarthy on Snowman in the Morning.
I'll have to go back and watch the clip, but tune in if you haven't. Tune in the morning if you got a hankering for more Ryan. It's a good way to wake up. I've tuned in a couple times. It's always nice to see Snowman and Ryan chopping it up on the airwaves.
10:30 a.m. Mondays. Snowman Multimedia channel. Check it out.
Yeah, check it out for sure. But it's ironic that those comments come out after this, and he really said nobody on that team is held accountable for anything, and there's no structure, there's no discipline. And he was very excited to come over to the Yankees because he said, I shaved my face as soon as the trade went through because I know the rules. I didn't want to shave my beard, but I did because there's rules in place and they have a culture. And he basically said the White Sox have none of that. And people did corroborate his account. So something's going on there in Chicago. It's getting a little wild.
Yep.
But we got a boxing match that broke out, and somebody, how much you want to bet the UFC or Pride or what's that boxing promotion that's doing boxing
Top
promotion
Rank?
That's doing all the Paul fights?
I think it's Top Rank.
Yeah, or Triller or something. Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, Triller. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Snoop Dogg's company.
They will try to get Ramirez in the ring. Mark my words. After that. Man.
All right. So our next story is a wild one. That this happened in May, but it just came to light last week. Indianapolis Colts owner Jim Irsay, who will not give his best player on his team, Jonathan Taylor, a raise, allegedly gave $20 million to SeaWorld to transport an orca, a killer whale, from Florida to somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, and spent $20 million doing it. And we talked about it a little bit on Saturday during our adventures around the capital region breweries. But I mean, you come out and say, I'm not going to pay this guy.
Yeah.
But it comes to light that you pay $20 million
to
have an orca transported from Florida to the Pacific Northwest. What does that tell you as an owner of an NFL team? Is that disrespectful, or is it just, was he looking for a tax write-off, or what?
Yeah, Jim Irsay, and it's one of the things that I started to talk about during the ride with you, is that Jim Irsay is one of these guys that I can't really figure out, because there's half of me that wants to hate him, and he does stuff to make you, he does stuff like this, which I think candidly, I think this is part of the, well, nobody else in the league wants to pay their running backs, so I'm not going to pay one either, but it's ridiculous. Jonathan Taylor is considered by many to be the best back in the NFL. If not the best back, he's in the top 3, easy. And but then Jim Irsay, he does the thing I told you about, his collection that he's received. He's got all sorts of memorabilia items and landmark items. He's a fan of music, so there's like one of Kurt Cobain's guitars is in it. I think he's got a lot of Beatles stuff in it. He's got some historical documents. He's got a few things, and he's received numerous offers to have the collection acquired from him, and he held on to it because he wanted to keep it to the public. He wanted to keep it open to the public. He has an event once a year. It's free to the public. He allows them to go in and view the collection, and he usually has a concert around it and its guests. And I'm like, yeah, maybe he's not such a bad guy. I mean, a little self-aggrandizing to have this collection, but at least he seems to genuinely care about the stuff and want to take care of it. And but then he does stuff like this, and he just, every once in a while he comes out, and I'm no Patriots fan, but the whole Deflategate thing, he was embroiled in that. He comes out, he makes crazy comments. He's just a very conflicting guy. I can't get a read on this guy because on the surface it sounds good. There was a documentary that came out on Netflix a few years ago about SeaWorld, and it didn't paint it in the best light. And maybe Jim Irsay really just wants to reunite this whale with others of its kind and set it free. That's a very admirable cause. We got a modern day Free Willy on our hands. But when you're spending money on that and you're turning around and you're telling one of the cornerstones of your franchise that you're not going to pay for them and you're not going to extend them, sends a conflicting message, and it's not a good look.
Yeah, I caught the New York Post article. It said Indianapolis Colts owner and philanthropist. I'm like,
Yeah.
philanthropist to whom?
Yeah.
Like, I get it with you explained about how he does really cool things and with the music memorabilia and sharing it with the public. Now you got this whole thing with spending $20 million to transport a whale.
Yeah.
A whale.
It's a whale of a tale.
It's a whale of a tale. And you won't pay your best running back. Like, yeah. Oh, great. You signed a whale to a $20 million contract. What's it going to do? Like, it's going to take up the entire field.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it would be unblockable. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Now coming into the lineup for the Indianapolis Colts, number 0, Lolita.
Moo, moo. All right. We have Lolita the whale. Lolita the whale.
That's what her name is. It's Lolita.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
And I would try to make a tasteless joke about the name of the plane being called the Lolita Express, but I won't say it. I won't say it. But yeah, the post game interviews will be wild. So Lolita, what were you thinking at the 1 yard line with 3 seconds left to go? Moo, moo, moo.
A scintillating interview. I could just picture.
Back to you, Chris Berman.
Yeah, you know who would interview Lolita? It'd be Erin Andrews. They'd trot her out there because they'd be like, "Hey, she has experience with having to deal with unruly interviewers." See Richard Sherman after the. That's one of my favorite overall clips because he's like, that's what you get when you talk about me, and she's just like, who was talking about you?
That guy over there, he's talking about me.
That's what you get when you try me with the sorry receiver like Crabtree. Man, that guy.
That N-word burned my father.
He's a great corner, but man, he made it hard he made my team at some time.
See, this is what happens when adrenaline mixes in with like end of game shenanigans and interviews, and you just get complete gibberish.
Yeah. Apparently he's back. I've seen him on the sidelines in training camp. I think he's some sort of consultant or coaching role. So hopefully he's got his off-field stuff straightened out, because there's no denying Richard Sherman, great football mind. He said a lot of polarizing stuff as a player. Not a lot of people liked him, but you can't argue with the skill set.
It's true. Now the last story about in this segment, it's a local story here in the capital region. The Union College, they have officially changed their team names, so they will no longer be the Flying Dutchman or the Flying Dutchwomen. On Thursday, they announced that they are going to be named. They're going to be known as the Union College Garnet Chargers.
I'm sorry, but that just
Lord give me strength.
I know that part of it is like familiarity, and I remember I had this discussion with my mom many moons ago. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, and I got the series on DVD, and I watched them incessantly after college, especially. And I said in the first episode, in the pilot, Jerry Seinfeld, or it was either Jerry Seinfeld or Larry David. I think it was Larry David. One of them knew Kramer, Ken Kramer, and they based the character of Kramer off of this man. And because they thought that they were going to have problems, that he might try to exploit it, or they might have legal trouble, they changed the name to Kessler. And if you listen in the first episode, Jerry calls Kramer Kessler at one point. He says, "Kessler, it's a tape." And I'm just like, Kessler, that name sucks. And my mom was like, "You're just saying that because you got used to Kramer, and like Kramer's what you know." And I'm like, "No, Mom, Kramer just fits. And this is how this feels to me. The Dutchman, maybe it's because I grew up here and I'm used to it, but that rolls off the tongue. Garnet Chargers. What did you? This is like the time that they voted. They let the fans pick the team and the team name for the Mets. The Mets affiliates, the Rumble Ponies. We have to deal with that. With that, it's like, where do you come up with some of these names?
This is the Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
and the logo is just as pathetic.
Oh, I haven't seen the logo. I'm
gonna show you right now.
All right.
It's god awful. There it is.
Oh. I mean,
I'm sure Gatorade's going to file a trademark infringement on this.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. And for that matter, I don't know how litigious AC/DC's legal team is either, but they might have something to say about it. But Gatorade,
if they're as litigious as Lars Ulrich, then yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Lars Ulrich, we're Metallica, we're going to shoot Napster. I don't know if you remember that bit.
Oh, I do.
Napster. Yeah, this is a terrible logo. This is a terrible name change. And I read the article from Times, reading the article from Times Union, and they announced this back in February, and they considered changing as a nickname as part of a quote comprehensive branding update, unquote.
Mm-hmm.
What? I don't understand. So this is what the news release says. It says Garnet Chargers, and I'm quoting here.
Mm-hmm.
Tagalong's giving me this look like, shut up, man. Garnet Chargers was the clear preference of the community, with many citing the name's tie to Schenectady's legacy as a leader in electrical technologies as a selling point. Meanwhile, a day later, one of the union football, one of the best union football running backs in school history, he comes out and says, didn't GE abandon Schenectady? Haven't they abandoned Schenectady for a very long time? They've been abandoning it since and this is what he says in the article. He says, I'm not sure why the focus of our team name is based on an industry that's basically left Schenectady behind. And Schenectady is where Union College is based out of.
Mm-hmm.
GE has very few employees or presence in Schenectady anymore. Not to mention, why would that be? We're rooting for a nickname based on a corporate company that puts a business in Schenectady. The whole thing is just odd. Now our name is a generic name based off 100 other probably athletic programs and pro sports teams in sports had the name Chargers, and they tried to throw a Garnet in front of it, which makes it even sound more corny. I can't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot disagree because, and part of it is it's just a complete washing of history, because this area was founded by Dutch settlers.
Yes.
And that's why they're called the Flying Dutchman. They're called the Dutchmen for a reason, and they're called the Dutch women for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just complete. I find this to be completely reactionary, because we've seen other brands switch team names out of sensitivity or issues, or people got offended. Who's getting offended?
Mm-hmm.
Who? This offends me. This nickname offends me because it's just so blasé, and nobody calls themselves the Garnet anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This doesn't work for me.
And whether you agree with it or not, in some of the other cases, you could see the argument. You could see some of the argument. You could see, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe it is time to update some of the names. Like I said, whether you agree with it or not. But this one, I don't understand. I don't understand how, because it literally just saying Dutchman or Dutch woman. I don't see. Do the Dutch as a concept offend people? Like, what's the deal here?
My heritage is Dutch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like this would be like Notre Dame changing to the Fighting Irish.
Yes.
And somebody on Fansided a couple of years ago had the audacity to suggest it.
Because
Notre Dame changed from the Fighting Irishman because it was a stereotype. And it's like, dude, if I ever see him, I'm gonna put down my drink and punch him. Stereotype is. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that.
There's that temper. No, I'm joking. But this to me is a classic example of overthinking the room. I think this is like you're trying to play chess out there when there's no need. This like I said, in some instances I can understand it, and in other instances, which I won't get into on the show because they're hot button issues, and that's not the place for this.
No,
but I agree with some of the changes that have been made, but then other times, some of the reactionary ones, it's just overthinking the room. It's overthinking
like
the room.
This one. This one was definitely a reach, and I'm pretty sure. And there are a lot of alumni who have said, "This is a terrible name change. Why weren't we consulted?" Like that kind of thing. Like it's terrible. It's awful. It's awful.
Yeah. And shout out to the person on Twitter /X who put out under it. They said even Kevin Garnett doesn't get it, and there was a GIF of like Kevin Garnett looking mystified. That was pretty funny. Got to give him that.
All right. Well, we come back. We're gonna do some more questions for humans, but in the meantime, we're gonna have a quick word from one of our sponsors. Stay tuned. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. Invader Coffee, Fuel for the Fearless, is a proud affiliate sponsor of No Credentials Required. Great coffee, affordable prices, and absolutely delicious. Dustin, I know you're a big fan of their donut dealer, as well as the one of the holiday blends, the Santa's. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, I've got to think of that. I also liked the Snickerdoodle cookie one with the abominable snowman on it.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, there's
cookie crumble.
Cookie crumble. That one's delicious. And then I got to look up the name of the Santa one. But I want to say I'm looking forward to fall for football, but summer's my favorite season, and I feel like it always goes by in a flash. So I'm always a little disappointed when it's coming to the end. But football and Invaders seasonal varieties are the two things that I'm looking forward to most, because I had their pumpkin variety last year, and it was like pumpkin pecan. It wasn't crazy. I've got to remember the name, but I hope they release it again this year, because I know in a myriad of pumpkin coffees, PSLs and all that stuff, but this was delicious flavor, stood above the rest, didn't try to be too pumpkin-y, wasn't trying to be trendy. It was a great blend. So it's one of the things I'm looking forward to about fall, even though it's around the corner. Football, This blend, Invaders seasonal blends, and apple pie, which a cup of coffee goes great with a slice of apple pie. Try it sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I still got to get myself some more coffee myself. I know I sent a pound. I sent a bag of the Mexican chocolate to Snowman. He enjoyed it. He was very appreciative of the fact that I gifted him one. So he loves it. So yeah, Invader Coffee, links in the description for our affiliate link. You get 15% off with promo code BELLYUP. All right. Questions for podcasters, our last segment for the evening. We're going to do some more questions. Again, buy this pack. Or you can buy, where is it? The Friends pack. Or if you're in a relationship, you're starting one, or you're in an established one, get yourself the dating pack. Or if you're in the office, workplace. So yeah, Ramsey Solutions, look for Questions for Humans. It's a great game. I dig it. John Deloney. Shout out, brother. All right. So, Dustin, this week, your question is, what's a crazy business idea you've never told us?
A crazy business idea that I've never told anyone. Well, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Oh man, I'm really trying to go back. I don't know that I have one. I've had business ideas, but they're all somewhat traditional, like, oh, I should do my own voiceovers, or I should do this or that. There's nothing that's crazy. To come up with what I think is a crazy idea, I have to go back to oh man, we're really going in the time machine. It's either second or third grade here. You had to come up with an invention. You had to come up with an invention or a business idea that nobody had thought about yet. And my friend Pat Miller, shout out if you're watching, Pat. My best friend growing up, he and I came up with the idea. It was one of the few times that we got to work together on a project in second grade. I think it had to be second grade because it was one of the few times that we were in the same class. We came up with the idea for a street cleaner that would clean up the streets after parades. It was an automatic street cleaner. And we drew up the sketches and everything. I don't know why this idea didn't take off, but really, I don't think I have any crazy ideas. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but I'm just drawing a blank here.
What if I told you that these street cleaners already exist?
They do. But ours had more bells and whistles. I can't remember what
literal bells and whistles
on it. Probably. I mean, we were in second grade, but also like they weren't just, they picked up trash, they picked up streamers, they picked up everything. It was like, because we didn't want people to have to do that anymore. Because to tie it into our show, you've seen sports stadiums after games, you've seen everything. Our machine was an automated machine. It could clean up everything. It wasn't just a street sweeper. But yeah, man, I have nothing for this question. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to suddenly come across a bunch of money, I would start my own media company. I mean, I love the folks at Belly Up and Gozilla Media. You know, shout out to those guys for giving me a platform to write and to create content, you know, do live streams, do podcasts, do play-by-play videos, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I would like to do my own thing, and I would have more time to travel to different places, get media credentials, learn how to do more film production, learn how to do more on the audio side, buy my own audio studio. Like, we wouldn't have to do StreamYard. We would do StreamYard if we were to live stream something, but we would be in the same room together. We would be in a studio, like a lot of other podcasters already have. So I would create my own media company. I wouldn't I wouldn't be sure what I would call it yet, though. I mean, McCarthy Media sounds kind of just
Yeah.
But I would we've got some ideas in the chat.
All right.
Your brother-in-law says topless female barbers for men.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure your sister will love that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she's not surprised he would say that. Not that I need a haircut. LOL. Hey.
Yeah. That's when you get yourself.
As long as they're classically trained barbers and can do like a classic shave, yeah, I'd be down. I might.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that would get him in real trouble if he went to my sister and said, "I got to go get a haircut." She'd look at him like, "What?"
She would say, "Do you mean lap dance?"
Yeah.
Well, anyway, your sister says the boozy bus, like an ice cream truck for adults. That I like.
See, I don't think any of these are crazy though. That's why maybe I took this out of, because I thought the question was, what's a crazy business idea you've never told anybody about?
That is what it says in the card. What's the crazy business idea?
So I took it like way too literal. I do that sometimes, but these are just good ideas. They're not crazy.
No, they're not crazy. They're actually excellent ideas.
Well, I mean, Nick's is a little zany, huh?
Yeah, well, that's Nick.
Yeah.
Chris Dietz from Fifth Down Sports. We had the same assignment. We made an ad for talking about your idea. We had an ad for Diet Z Cola.
Oh, nice.
Now, was the Z like a lightning bolt, Dietz, or I don't know,
the Garnet Chargers, or was it an Omas? Were you playing chess while everybody's playing checkers? That's right. It's the second time I've used this reference. Was it just an elaborate shout out to Ricola? Who knows?
Your sister replies, "Topless haircuts seems a bit crazy."
Oh yeah, well yeah. You know, the comments are a little delayed.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there was places that actually had women in bikinis giving haircuts. I mean,
oh, for sure, yeah.
They'd call it like sports cuts, but with the Z instead of an S at the end. You know?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
There we go. Diet Z. His last name Dietz. Diet Z. See, yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Dietz. That's really
all right. Lay it on me, Dustin. What's your question for me?
All right, my question for you, my good man, is if someone sketchy owed you $5,000, who would you take with you to go get it?
Ooh, I'd take two people.
Mm-hmm.
Take my brother Jeremy, who is 6'6". You know who you see Jeremy.
Yeah.
6 foot. He's 6'6", and he's built like me, and he has a giant goatee. looks like a biker. Nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
But don't get on his bad side.
Yeah.
I'd also take my buddy Sean. To shout out to my buddy Sean. Unfortunately, his father passed away unexpectedly last week. So my thoughts and prayers to my friend's family. But I'd take my buddy Sean as well, because he has a way to. He has a very creative way of making you give up things. Like he doesn't look threatening, but he could. He knows how to verbally take you down. Like his verbal takedown game is spectacular, and he could come up with ways to creatively threaten you. And I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has a way of also physically manipulating you to make you give $5,000.
Yeah.
So those are two people I would take with me. So what about you, Dustin? Who is one person you take down to make them pay you $5,000?
Well, I am surprising myself with these answers, but I'm gonna take a page out of your book, and I'm gonna say that I'm taking two people with me too, and this people are gonna laugh at this answer. But
is one of them my brother Jeremy?
No, I'm gonna tell you who I'm taking, and his advanced age doesn't matter. One of the people I'm taking is my dad. Because my dad was a judo instructor, and my dad is also. Let me put it to you this way: when I was younger, I used to have a temper, a big one. My sister, she's in the comments; she'll attest to it. And please don't write any of the things that you're going to write into the comments, Trey. I know.
Oh, she's gonna.
I know what I'm talking about, and you know what you're talking about. But I had a bad temper, and people say that some people have said I can't picture that because you're quiet, you're this, you're that. And I am. But if you get me to a certain point, there's no turning back. And it's not healthy. It's not. My mom used to say that I gave a certain look. There were times where I came home from school. She could tell if I had a bad day or something, and she knew not to ask me what was wrong right away. She knew not to talk to me. She knew I needed time to step away. So to circle this all the way back around, I don't think I've ever seen my dad get angry that I can remember in my life, like truly angry. I've never seen my dad do that. But I am only surmising that once you get my dad past a certain point, I don't think there's turning back either, because my dad is ultra quiet. But I think if you pushed him far enough, you wouldn't want to be on his bad side. Also, coupled with the fact that he knows judo, he could do some things to get the money, and he's also he could probably, he has a way of talking, not taking people down like Sean does, but he would just say, I just think you really ought to give him back the money. Like he would make the person like feel bad. I think, because he would just say, like, you took the money, it was wrong. It's not, you owe the money. And the other person that I'm going to put out there is my buddy Dave. You've met Dave. And the reason I would bring Dave with me is because Dave, I know, would stand by me, and he would do what if we needed to, if things were about to get physical. I know Dave would do what needed to be done. He would stand by me. He'd have my back unquestionably. So those are the two people I'm taking. I'm taking Dave Pregent. I'm taking my dad to go get this $5,000.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Yeah, interesting questions.
Yeah, these cards, they get you. I felt like I really failed on the crazy idea one, but hey, time warp back to second grade. We got there.
That's right. So that's where we leave you, folks. So we're about to wrap things up here on another edition of No Credentials Required. I just want to remind you to go to our social media channels right down here below on Twitter or X, Instagram, and the scarcely used TikTok, at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/at NoCredsREQ. We're at 269 subscribers currently. We want to get to 500. If we get to 300 by the end of the month, it's a great path forward. But we want to get to 500 so we can get monetized, earn ourselves some cash, earn ourselves some ways to get cash. It'd be awesome if you could spread the word. Subscribe. Speaking of subscriptions, on the audio side, you can subscribe to the podcast on a myriad of podcasts on podcast networks, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Rate the show. 5 stars is preferred. Review the show. We'll even read it on the air. And the last comment of the night will go to Dietz. He says, Yankee Stadium report, concessions need improvement. He also said, beginning, I forgot to read it, and I apologize for that. Yankee Stadium was great watching the game. Concessions need work. They were slow and took 2 hours to get a Judge Burger. That's unacceptable for the establishment. I do have to ask, just to be fair, how was the staffing? Was the staffing adequate? Was there a lack of staffing? That might be the reason why it might have needed improvement. I mean, compared to pre-pandemic levels of improvement. So I'm kind of curious, but we'll find out on Thursday on Thursday morning, because Dietz will have his report on Snowman in the morning. So tune in then, 10 a.m. So in the meantime, we're going to leave you. Thank you again for watching and listening to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are always presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Gozilla Media. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Thank you for watching or listening, and we will see you here next week. We're doing another installment of No Ticket Required. Until then, we'll talk to you later.
Good night, everybody.